Storytime about my awful stepmother. So a little background information. I was 12 years old and in 7th grade at the time. And my dad was single and he was dating a ton of girls, but I had never met any of them until I met her. My dad must have really liked this woman because he would talk to her 24/7. It was like a teenage relationship. They were on the phone all the time. So much to the point where I knew literally everything about her before I even met her. Finally, we meet in person and we got along really well, like she was my best friend. But she didn't keep that act up for long because that all changed whenever I met her kids. She has an older son named John, a middle child named Kai, and a younger daughter named Kin. At first, they all seemed pretty chill, and Kai and I got along really well. They lived about an hour away from us, so we didn't see them all the time. I ended up finding out that her kids were low-key bad as hell. One of the first incidents with my stepmom was whenever Kai was smoking, and she asked me if I wanted to hit whatever she was smoking. Mind you, I was 9 years old. And of course I said no. Fast forward, the one day Kai gets caught, and her and my stepmom tell my dad that it was me. I got my ass whooped over that shit. I was 9 years old. Like for part 2. Part 2 about my awful stepmother. So yeah, like I was saying, my dad believed them over me, which really upset me because my dad and I used to be super close, but she would get jealous anytime that my dad and I spent any time together. She would insist that he spend all of his time with her and her kids. Like, girl, I was here first. Anyway, so fast forward to the Walmart incident. The one day we're all at Walmart and she called my dad screaming because he didn't take Kai with him, which about that, she would always compare me to Kai. She would say things like, oh, you should dress like Kai, or you should be more like Kai, or if only you were as pretty as Kai. Their family was just weird. Kai was jealous of the fact that I had a relationship with my father and my brother. Like, y'all, it was weird. Anytime that I went to sit next to my brother, she would throw a fit about it. Fast forward to the church incident. At this time, everybody had been getting along pretty well. And then the one day we all go to church and I noticed that people are staring at me and I'm like, okay, what the fuck? After service, my church will always serve food. So I went to the cafeteria area and I was sitting there on my phone. And then a girl comes up to me and she's like, is it true? I'm like, what are you talking about? She's like, oh, your stepmom told everybody that you slept with your brother's best friend and got pregnant. Like for part 3. Part 3 about my awful stepmother. So like I said, one of the girls who's my age came up to me while I was in the cafeteria and she's like, is it true? And I'm like, what are you talking about? She goes, your stepmom told everybody that you slept with your brother's best friend, got pregnant, and tried to blame it on your cousin. And I look at her and I'm like, bitch, what the fuck are you talking about? So I go directly to my stepmom and I confront her and she acted clueless saying, what are you talking about? I never said such a thing. But then the girl who told me about it sent me a video of my stepmom telling her mom the whole story. So I show the video to my stepmom and she admits it finally. But then she was like, well, I was just saying it to say it. And I absolutely lost it. I slapped her in the face. My dad got pissed off at me and he kicked me out. He told my mom to come and get me and he said he never wanted to see me again. And you guys won't believe what happened after this. It wasn't like I was saved by my mother. Actually, she took my phone away from me for 10 months and my brother hates me and my dad doesn't talk to me and my stepmom still talks shit about me to all of her co-workers and pretty much everybody in that town.
My best friend stole my fiance and my December wedding plans and then got mad at me when I uninvited her to my birthday party. Disclaimer, is not my story time with Honeymoon on Instagram. Relationship I used to have with my bestie I thought was healthy. We supported each other in everything we did. We paid for each other every chance we could. If we went to a restaurant, she would pick up the bill, and then I would pick up the bill the next time. We would share all of our clothes, and she would literally buy me makeup randomly and just surprise me with it. I would buy her perfume randomly because that's what she loves. This woman would even come to my mom's house. She would cook for my mom and have sleepovers with her. They would watch movies, and I was happy about that. But of course, everything changed when a man came into the picture. When I introduced her to my new guy, she would change her posture. She would change the way she spoke. She was always trying to look pretty around him. She even asked me once, does my makeup look okay for him? I was like, what do you mean? She said, I just need to make a good impression on your man. This got worse until one day, she got tipsy and sat on my boyfriend's lap. Hey, part 2 is already up. Go watch. This is when I catch my boyfriend and my bestie making out in my closet, my apartment that I pay for. I had invited my bestie over to watch a movie and have dinner with me. My fiance shows up without even telling me. I got a really bad vibe. My bestie kept giggling for absolutely no reason. I mean, we were watching Schindler's List. So here's what I did. I needed to put them to the test. Told them I was gonna go get ice cream for dessert and that I would be back. You think my boyfriend offered to go for me? No. They just giggled and said, okay. I leave my apartment and I wait 5 minutes. I come in really quietly. They're not in the living room. I go to my bedroom. They're standing in my closet kissing each other. When I see them, I say, I caught you guys. I knew you were trying to hook up and I kicked them both out. My fiance stood outside my door for 4 hours begging me to let him in. Instead, I told him I would be keeping the ring. So I break up with both of them. Then I get an invite to their wedding. The same exact wedding she helped me plan. To forget about everything, I planned myself a really nice party. Guess who shows up to my party? My ex-bestie. With my ex. She walks right up to me and asked me why I didn't invite her. And then she threw my cake on the floor. Got a restraining order from both of them. I feel like I should get her fired or something. Should I take revenge? Yes or no? cheated on my husband on our honeymoon. This is not my story time with Send Me on Instagram. This is gonna sound so mean, but my husband is boring. He does not make me laugh. I think he virtually has zero personality. His only saving grace is the fact that he makes a lot of money and he's very attractive. Every single girlfriend I have is always talking about how good looking he is and how lucky I am to have found him. But what they don't know is that we actually don't even speak. He never consults me about anything or even tries to make small talk. You're probably thinking, why did I get engaged? Well, because I had only dated assholes up until that point. And he was the best out of the lot. After our huge expensive wedding, he surprised me with the 2-month trip to Europe. But the moment we got on the plane, I started to cry. He had no interest in talking about the wedding and how fun it was. The only thing he cared about was watching a basketball game on the plane. So I'm sitting there in first class with my champagne, bawling my eyes out. He didn't even notice because he was watching the game. And that's the moment I decided that I would do whatever I had to do for myself. And as soon as we walked into our hotel in Greece, I saw my first target. He saw me too. It was the hot guy that worked at the hotel. Don't worry, part 2 is already up. I cheated on my husband on our honeymoon. After realizing on the plane that my husband was not interested in talking to me on this 2-month trip, I took my fun into my own hands. When we got to our hotel, I noticed the bellhop. He was extremely attractive. We were in Greece, and I had been working my tush off at the gym for 6 months in preparation for this wedding. I thought my husband would be wanting to see my body. But instead, he told me that he was going to stay in to watch ESPN. If I wanted to, I could go out and get dinner. So please bring him back something. I was mortified. I was almost beside myself in the bathroom. Instead, grabbed my skimpiest bikini, some oil on, headed for the pool. There was the bellhop. Came to me. I didn't even go to him. He asked me if I was okay because he did see me crying. And then I let it all out. Told him exactly what my husband did. I asked him if he would be willing to take me out that night. He smiled and said, yes. After my shift, you get ready and I'll take you to the best bars. When I tell you I had the most fun with this man that I had never met before. The first bar, he confessed that he was attracted to me. By the time we got to the second bar, he had already kissed me once. And we went back to his place and it happened. Not once did I think about my husband. But don't worry, part 3 is already up, so go watch. I cheated on my husband on our honeymoon. After my husband told me that he was going to watch ESPN for the rest of the night on our first night of our honeymoon, went out with the bellhop, hit some bars, and we ended up going back to his place and doing you know what. I guess I got lucky because he lived close to the hotel. I went every single day. So my husband and I did go out to dinners a couple of times because I had to tell him to take me out. Otherwise, he was fine lounging in the pool for the rest of the trip, hooked up with 3 other guys as we traveled. No, I did not catch feelings, but I felt liberated. I felt like I was getting back at my husband. Now that our honeymoon is over, I'm actually thinking I'm gonna get a divorce. He just still doesn't talk to me. Doesn't even make small talk. Asks me how I like our new house. When I ask him questions, he gives me really short answers. I thought maybe he might be gay. Maybe he just hates me. And why would he ask me to marry him? Nights ago, he said he wants me to get pregnant as soon as possible. I don't know how that's gonna happen when he doesn't even touch me. Told my mom everything and she thinks that I'd be making a mistake leaving him because with him, I have financial security. I'm just so unhappy. And the Greek guy asked me if he could come visit me. What should I do?
My dad cheated on my mom, but his karma is his new wife sucks.
There we go.
Hi, I, 26 female, have a dad who remarried about 7 years ago to his new wife, Kara. My dad is 65 and got his Medicare benefits this year, but Kara convinced him to claim his benefits early by about 5 months so that he wouldn't be able to get the full benefits. This is one of many things she's done, but it is the second most recent. By the way, this comes from user OKBoat45 on the r/OKStorytime subreddit. So, the most recent was when she said my father wasn't allowed to meet his grandchild that my sister, 28 female, had earlier this year. He has not met his granddaughter yet, and my sister was going to be driving up there for them to meet, since my father has been having car issues for the last 2 years and has been unable to visit. I say unable in quotations because Kara has a daughter from another marriage who always accompanied my father whenever he would visit us. She would call her mom and report back every detail of what we were doing, saying where we were going. It was literally a play-by-play and very uncomfortable. When we requested that her daughter stay home after she was already into her early 20s, as she was a teen when this started, suddenly he could no longer visit. A few days before my sister was supposed to drive 4 hours to go visit them, my dad called to tell my sister that Kara had decided to ban her from visiting my father.
Oh, wow.
Because she has the total right to do that, I guess.
Yeah, I guess so.
She also previously prevented my father from seeing my brother, 23 male, who had been trying fruitlessly to get my dad to meet his girlfriend before he officially proposed.
Wow.
In the end, my dad never met her and my brother proposed anyway. They're happily engaged now. I resent my dad for his life choices. He cheated on my mom 3 times. She forgave him the first 2 times when we were little kids to keep the family together, but when we were older, my mom found out my dad cheated again, but this time he used my sister as a scapegoat for father-daughter days that were actually dates with other women. And he told my sister that it was her job as the oldest to help him hide it from my mother so that they wouldn't divorce and tear the family apart.
Lovely.
This guy is...
New job.
I feel awful because I used to be jealous that my dad never took me on a father-daughter day. He would take me and my brother out to the zoo sometimes when my sister told him that he needed to spend time with us, and taking my brother to Target did not count as a family outing. He never took my sister with us. I thought it was weird, but now I know he stopped viewing her as a daughter and just saw her as a scapegoat to blame all his problems on. She was like 13 when he started this.
Oh no.
How are you going to put that on a 13-year-old?
Oh no, dude. That's so tough. The trauma.
My mom was still willing not to divorce him for my brother, who was still a teen at the time, if he went to therapy, confessed his sins to a priest, we're religious, and did marriage counseling. My dad said no, and my mom realized that he didn't love her at all anymore, so divorce. My dad was also trying to turn my brother and I against my mom at the time because we were not told why they were divorcing, saying it was her fault and she had a list for him that he didn't want to do. When we found out the truth, we both supported my mom, obviously. When he remarried, he didn't tell us until a few weeks after they remarried when Kara sent me a friend request on Facebook and she had his last name. My dad's extremely selfish, and while he texts me semi-regularly, he doesn't make the same effort for my sister or brother despite the fact that they reach out to him more.
Who knows what the dad is saying about her, about OP?
I can tell you, it's probably a bunch of lies. A bunch of lies. I'm the one who's still single, so I think he still sees me as his little girl while the others are adults. I haven't forgiven him, and he never asked for forgiveness. Still, he is my dad, and there's a part of me that wants to help him, wants him to choose my siblings who are trying to have a relationship with him despite everything. Kara made him take a test that said he had early signs of dementia, though he claims that he's cognitively fine. She makes him beg my aunts and uncles on his side for money so she can spend it on designer bags and false eyelashes. She works at a fire department as a secretary, I think? I have never cared enough to ask for clarification. She wasn't any of the women my dad cheated on my mom with, but she was the girl he dated prior to my mother. Kara tried to stay in my dad's life while he was dating my mom, but he picked my mom over her. I find it very weird that she was there when they divorced, as my dad isn't really on social media, and neither is my mom, so I don't know how she found him. They were together pretty quickly after the divorce while my mother stayed single, as she didn't want to make things weird for my brother. I've never met her in person, but I've heard her yelling at my dad in the background of a few phone calls we've had. I honestly don't think she even likes my dad based on how she's acted. I think she wanted to marry him to quote unquote win, since my dad didn't pick her originally. I honestly am just speculating on that because I don't know why else she would. My dad doesn't have money. She encouraged him to work as a cashier even though he is college educated with work experience and could have gone anywhere else. He had a small business that wasn't really successful before that. Then when he lost his job as a cashier, she made him get his Medicare benefits early despite only being a few months away from being full benefits. He is solely reliant on her. She checks his location, she isolates him from friends and family, she's ruined his relationship with his siblings by making him beg for money. My uncle has told me that my dad only ever calls for handouts. It's sad. And you can join us live on YouTube every weekday at 3 p.m. PST. All you gotta do is tap our profile.
Tibbity tap tap.
I know that my dad is awful, but I still want to help him. I feel like Kara is committing elder abuse, but not physically, just mentally. I don't know what to do about any of this. It feels like karma has gotten my dad, but it sucks to know it's happening. I told my dad the last time we spoke that if he kept rejecting his kids when they reached out, that one day we wouldn't want him in our lives anymore.
Oof.
That was months ago. At the time, he gave the verbal equivalent of rolling his eyes. I don't remember the exact phrasing, but he dismissed what I said. I feel like he's going to die sad and alone, and if anyone has any advice, I would greatly appreciate it.
My boyfriend does everything right, but he frequently makes rude/mean jokes. I've asked him to stop, but he won't. Should I break up with him?
Okay, so we already have breaching a thing. Okay, whatever. Okay.
My boyfriend, 44 male, and I, 27 female, have been together for 8 months. He does pretty much everything right. He supports me, is very thoughtful. I know that he loves me and wants a future with me. Marriage, kids. After 8 months is wild.
Yeah.
Maybe. I mean, maybe. Some people get married at a year.
Yeah, no, that's true. So it's not too.
I'm not going to judge him.
Yeah,
All
no,
right.
no judgment here.
Our only issue is the way he speaks to me sometimes. He says hurtful things like quote unquote joking, how his life was better before me when he was single. Yeah, right. How he would leave me for another woman. How he can't believe how his life has turned out now, parentheses, not in a good way, and parentheses, things that you really shouldn't joke about. I've begged him to stop. I started calling him out every time it happens, and he apologizes and acts nice for some time, but eventually falls back into the same habit and says mean things again. This has gone on for the majority of our relationship. He always says he'll never do it again, but then he does. It's almost like he's unable to stop the rude and mean comments, or he doesn't want to. Is it that hard just to think before you speak? We had a small incident a couple months back where he lost his temper and threw things and called me very awful names. He apologized, and it has never happened again. But it all makes me wonder. He does everything else right, and we have a nice life together. So why the rude and hurtful comments? Should this be a deal breaker? I feel my mental health has suffered from constantly having to deflect the hurtful comments. Too long didn't read. My boyfriend does everything right, but he frequently makes rude/mean jokes. I've asked him to stop, but he won't. Should I break up with him?
Yes.